In the last video, we used about using and charging a card once. In this video, we're going to talk about creating a customer in Stripe and saving that customer's details to our Meteor user object. To get started, I've changed the UI a little bit. I've added accounts password, and accounts UI to my Meteor project, as you can see. Add accounts password, add accounts UI. And I've signed into an account. I've also added a little bit of HTML to our UI. They have this, I have this card info panel, I have this charge customer button, and of course I have the login buttons. And finally, over in my JS file, I have added a charge user button event. I've added all of this CS up here, which is part of my card info UI, and I have deleted the contents of my original Meteor methods. I've added add card, load card info, and charge user methods. I'm not going to explain how my UI works. I've borrowed it from another project of mine. It works pretty well for sort of dynamically loading the UI in. And if you look through the code, it's pretty simple how it works. It's a bit messy, but it works quite well. So to get started on creating our customer, we're going to just get rid of these two lines here in our charge card method, and we're going to change the name of this from charge card to add card. Okay, so we're going to delete these two lines, and I'm going to call load card info in here because this just refreshes our card info UI. And I'm going to call an alert that says card saved, just to give the user some sort of response. But the majority of this video we're going to be spending down here in this add card function. So what do we want to do first? We want to check if we already have a customer, a Stripe customer, attached to this particular Meteor user. So if Meteor.user .stripe cust, I'm just going to call it, equals null. We want to do one thing, which is of course create a new customer. Else, that's a cap lock, else we want to only update the customer in Stripe and leave all the stuff in our Meteor user the same. Now just remember there's one other package we need to add to Meteor, and that's Meteor hacks async. This is going to let us run our call out to the Stripe API in the create customer call, get the result, and then save it into our database without there's problems if you call into Meteor collections within the callback from a method. So just trust me on that. We're going to use our async here. Okay, so to get started, we're going to create a variable into which the results from that async call are going to get saved. So var cust create, and we're going to go async dot run sync. We're going to put it in a function in here that we're going to run synchronously, and our callback is called done. Open it up, and in here we're going to create a customer. So Stripe dot customers dot create, and then in here we put a directory of the information. So I'll just show you what the customers API from Stripe looks like. So we want to go in here to customers. Why is it? Yeah, we want to go a customer object, create a customer. And as you can see, we have to only pass, we actually don't have to pass anything in particular, but we're going to pass a source. So the source is the card that this customer has, and that whenever we want to charge this customer, we charge them with this card. So over here, we want to put a source directory, and we're going to use that card token from before. And then in our function callback, we want to have an error, and we want to have a response. Finally, in here, we want to call the done of the async run. You don't really need to understand how this works. I'm going to probably do a video on how to use Async because it's a really great tool if you're using NPM packages, which you should be using because they can save you a lot of time. They can give you a lot of power in Meteor. So at this point, we either have an error or we have our successfully created customer. Let's check for an error first. So if cust create dot error, we're going to throw that error back up the stack like we did before. So throw new Meteor error. Of course, we want that 500 code. We want Stripe error. And we're going to just put the message from Stripe into the message from our error. Okay, so that should handle our error and throw it up the stack. If we don't have an error, we want to, of course, save our customer. We're going to do that in our Meteor user object. To update a Meteor user object or add something or remove something, we call Meteor users update. And we're going to put our user ID in there, which we can get from Meteor.user ID. And then we're going to do the operation on it. And that's a set operation on our, what were we calling it up here? Stripe cust. That's what we're calling our property for the Stripe customer. And we're going to put our customer create result ID. So we're going to pull the ID out of the customer which was responded to us from Stripe, and we just return and end our code there. So what this will do is it will put that Stripe customer ID into our Stripe customer property on this particular user's MongoDB object. We'll get rid of that. The final thing we want to do is update the object, or update the customer in Stripe if the user wants to change their credit card. Again, we're going to do that in an async. So there, cust update, we might call it. And we're going to call it async, big fingers, run sync. And just like before, we put a function in here, our done, and then we run our code. This time we're going to go Stripe customers dot update, because we're updating a customer. The first thing we want to put in here is the customer's ID, which we're just going to get from this. And then we want to give a directory of the properties we're updating. In this case, we're updating the source to a new card. So we go source, we pop our card token in there. And of course, we finally want to put a function, a callback function, which we're going to pass into our done. So this done of this async is the thing that sorts of passes it out into here. So when you call done, this is basically saying to async, I've done running what's the code inside this async. Here is the result. Do what you will with it. Again, we want to have error handling, so I'm just going to copy this because I'm lazy. I know it's probably bad practice. And if we don't, because we're not updating the customer, because the customer ID stays the same, we can just return it there. So what am I doing here? I'm checking if there's an error. If there is, I throw that error up the stack. Let's see how this works now that we've done it. Okay, so we have an error, an unexpected token at line 74. 74. So there's no little comma in there. Let's save that and see what it comes out with now. So our app is now running this time. Save our card number. Put our card number in there, our future date, our fake CV number, and submit it. See what happens. Card saved. So there's one last thing I want to show you before we finish up this video. If we go Meteor Mongo, here we go. Wait for this. db.users.find1. There is our Stripe customer with our Stripe token in there, Stripe customer token. So as you can see, it's been saved onto the users object. In the next video, I'm going to talk about how you can pull the basic card details back out from that customer object in Stripe, and how we're going to use that little bit of UI code to show those basic details to the user.